Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. So glad you joined us. You can always find us at goodlifetelevision.org, where we have all the interviews, some amazing people, and so many of you have joined us there from all over the world. We have the full interviews, and then we also have what we call power clips, so you can see some of the great moments from those interviews. We'd love to have you join us there. And as always, this program is brought to you by the Turner Foundation. You can go to theturnerfoundation.com, and you can read what we're all about, but we're so delighted you're with us. I'm so excited about my guest today. Hannah Gioia is with me. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
There's a great book called Never Goodbye that Hannah's written about her journey with her father and her journey in life, which I've started over the last few days, and it's really wonderful. So I'd encourage you to pick it up. But start by just kind of talking a little bit about your life, kind of growing up and growing up with your dad, and then we can kind of get to the book.
Yeah, so I was born into a father who was paralyzed. So the only vision I ever had of my dad was being in the wheelchair. So for me, that was normal, and that was the best type of father I could have ever asked for. As a little girl, my dad was my best friend. I'd always call him Iron Man because he was always one to get out of everything, my superhero. And we just had such an amazing, special, unique relationship, my father and I. I know there were so many times where I had soccer games and my dad would be just wheeling himself to the soccer games. And to me, that was just the most incredible eyesight I could have ever had. But to other people, they're like, is she okay? Like, oh my gosh, like condolences. I'm like, what's wrong with them? I'm like 8 years old.
Right.
But it's just such a special way how God was able to use that situation and make it so meaningful for me. So I would have never asked for anything different in a father.
And so just so that everyone, just to clarify, so he suffered, it's a long name, but Guillain-Barré syndrome.
I might butcher the name myself.
It's long.
It's long. So it's Guillain-Barré syndrome, so GBS.
Okay.
And CIDP, which I'm not going to say because I will just
Butcher it.
butcher
okay.
it, but it's
They
CIDP.
can look that up.
Yeah.
But it's a chronic and progressive condition where the body essentially attacks itself over time.
Exactly.
So he dealt with this for decades, right?
27 years.
27 years,
Exactly.
your entire life.
My entire life.
So you're on this journey with him and your mom and your siblings where you're literally having to watch him just get worse, right?
Exactly.
I mean, is that kind of what it was like?
It was, yes. So he was able to live at home for a long time. So for, I would say 20 years, he was able to be at the house. So between my mom, myself, and my older brother, we were all his caretakers. So, and when I say caretaker, I mean like caretaker. Like we would have to scratch his hand for him. We would have, my mom would brush his hair. Just everything that we take for granted. Sometimes the simplest of things, we had to be there for him. So neck down, completely paralyzed. But yeah, he was able to have a normal life, living at home for 20 years, but mentally he was there, all there. He was able to speak, he was able to communicate, but physically he wasn't. And I would say the last 7 years was when things just went downhill. He was placed on a life support the final 3 years of his life, final 6 years of his life, living at the nursing facility. Yeah, so that was, I would say, the most challenging years.
Wow.
Yeah.
In this book, you talk about this journey you had with your dad. It's funny, it's insightful, it's warm. I love it. You have a great writing style. But you kind of distilled, and I wanted to kind of go through some of these because it seems like what happened to you was that God used what was a really rough thing, and you've taken some amazing lessons and you've written them. And so I was going to just kind of ask you about some of the principles and kind of some of what you've learned, just for you to share a little bit about. One of them is embracing joy in the unknown.
Love that one.
Talk about that.
Embracing joy in the unknown. So our entire journey was unknown. There was so much mystery. There was so much not knowing. And I would be lying if I said that there weren't moments where we were hopeless, where we were joyless. But I would say that embracing joy in the unknown, to me, what that meant personally was just not even having to ask God the facts or the whys, or having to figure out the meaning behind so many of the questions and prayers that I had. But it was just embracing the simplest simplicity of joy. And what I mean by that is we had the opportunity of just being there for families who had no one at the hospitals and nursing homes. And there were so many moments where I'm like, God, why can't you just have my dad get better like them? Or why can't you have him walk? Like, why? But putting that to the side and looking at the bigger picture, there are other families here that don't have someone. So embracing that by being there for them, using something that was supposed to break us, how the enemy was using that to just defeat us.
Right.
My mom, myself, and my brother, like, you know what? We are going to be the only Jesus these families are ever going to see. And that to us was how we embrace joy in the unknown.
Wow. That's an interesting thought because I think it is natural to ask why.
Why?
For a long time. Why, and we've been through stuff where, that you want to know.
Exactly.
But it seems like in your guys' case, you're able to kind of at some point set that aside and say, okay, maybe it doesn't matter why. Here's where we are, and here's what are we going to do? And I was listening to your mom talk about the fact you guys have done ministry now in nursing homes.
Exactly.
And
yes.
I mean, imagine the power of the fact that you were there, and then that got to be born out of the situation. That maybe that's the why. I mean, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And we would have never been able. My mom actually had a ministry just between our family called the Good Night. So it's nothing crazy, but it was just called Good Night. So as we were leaving the nursing home where my dad was staying, the ones who didn't have family members, my mom would go to each room and just kind of peek through and see if they maybe needed something to be tucked in or a blanket to be pulled up. And she would just simply say goodnight and allow them to feel seen and loved. And that's just the reason, our why, like what you said, that's our why. That's why we were there, because God specifically anointed that time for us to be there, to just be the only Jesus and hope for them to see.
It's so beautiful. Resilience is contagious. We talked about that.
Yes,
Talk
so contagious.
About resilience a little bit.
My dad was quite contagious. He was contagious because the man had resilience. And there were times where I was just walking out of the hospital or the urgent care and just like defeated, just so upset to the situation, not knowing where this was going to lead us to. And there was my dad. My dad just in the wheelchair with a trach in his throat, not being able to breathe, only through a ventilator. And there he was, having the nurse turn the knob to a speaking valve and telling me that God was good. And what? Like, come on, like this guy is contagious because his resilience, he didn't need to teach me what life was about. He didn't need to teach me what the definition of resilience was. He showed me every single day what that was. And I think that was the biggest thing for me as a daughter, was to see my dad sacrifice every single day to be there by walking by faith, not physically, but showing me what resilience and walking by faith was.
That's so beautiful. Your dad, he was fond of saying God is good.
Love that saying. Loved it.
I mean, with what he was dealing with, to have that perspective, to have that truth is so powerful.
And his actual text message, the last one he sent me, was God is good. His last text message, 6 days before he passed, it was. Oh. It was God is good, count your blessings, Jesus loves you, proud of you, love you. And again, God is good. So he's just like, when I see him in heaven, I'll be like, Dad, God is good, running through the gates.
It's just amazing.
Just amazing.
When we are weak, God is strong.
Another great one. When we are weak, God is strong, because there were so many nights where, as joyful and hopeful and resilient my father was, he had his doubts, of course. He had his ordinary Wednesday afternoon, laying in the bed, looking at the ceiling, fighting that mental battle. And he's human. We're all human. And I love the fact how God says in the Word that when we are weak, He is strong. And my father was so weak. I mean, to the world, he was the weakest of the weak. To the doctors, he had no hopeful prognosis. There was no going up from here. And he was considered to be at the lowest. And I love how God says that when we are weak, He is strong, because it was through my dad's weakness, through our doubts and questions, God's strength was completely shining through all of us. And that's what a lot of the doctors would say. They were saying, it's not looking good for you, sir. It's not looking good. You got pneumonia on 2 lungs. but yet my dad was still there smiling, asking how they were. And that's right there how God was able to use his weakness to show his strength. That's only God. That is only God able to do that through us.
So amazing. You talked about you talk about remembering God's love for you, which, and of course, you know, you have a dad who's in this really difficult situation. He's looking at you, telling you God is good, but remembering God's love for you in moments, because like you're talking about the average Wednesday afternoon where it's just like, here we go, you know. Talk about that and what you learned about God's love in this process.
Yeah, gosh. I mean, that was the only way I was able to get through all of this, was through God's love. And there were, growing up as in my 20s, in my teens, I've always wanted to just be accepted by people. I've always wanted to feel like they were there for me. I wanted them to ask me, how's your dad doing? Like, is there anything they can do for us? Always basing my love on other people's love and acceptance towards us. But I think really how I felt God's love throughout this whole journey was just putting my trust in him, just completely putting my trust in him, and just staying focused, staying present, staying groundful to know that I may never know my unanswered prayers or the whys on this side of eternity, but just knowing that when I do see God face to face, that he will say it all, that he'll tell me, he'll say, Hannah, like, I loved you and I saw you, I was there for you. And it was just through like the Holy Spirit, God's love, that I felt his comfort in the moments where I thought it was my dad's final breaths. It was God's love where he was there at the last moments before my dad took his final breath, and when his heart went flat. There was nothing else in this world that could have ever comforted me, but it was just an overflow of God's love. There's no words to describe it, but that's just how I know in my moments of doubts, there is a God. There is a God who loves me, and there's so much purpose behind the pain.
Yeah. Setbacks becoming comebacks.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Yeah, you're holding it right there, the book. That to me is my comeback. No.
Right.
But it's so true. I thought I was 27 when my father passed away. So 2.5 years ago. And I'm telling you, Dean, I thought that was the end. Like, I thought that was it. There was not going to get emotional. No emotions here. But if it does come out, it's just okay, because I truly thought that was my setback. I thought that was it. And it was just so true how God comes through. And like how God is so close to the brokenhearted. And he was so close to me. And day after day, I wrote and wrote. And this was just the comeback, to know that our story, our faith, is going to help people who feel like there's no hope for them. And it's not about telling my father's story or telling about my journey. It's about showing how a girl who had so much setbacks, how a man who had so much setbacks was be able to show God's comeback. And there's a tear. And that's just truly what I believe, how God is able to shine the brightest.
Yeah. And you know, it's so much about the journey.
It is.
You know, we were so, I feel like in life and in this world, we can be pretty destination oriented and not journey oriented, you know, because it's just an average Wednesday and I'm staring at the ceiling and nothing's changing. God, you know, and then to think about the journey, what's going on, like what's actually happening inside of you and your mom and your, like, that's a beautiful thing. That it seems like when I was reading this, I was thinking about the fact that you guys have been on a journey, and the journey, you know, is more important than the destination.
Exactly.
You know?
It's so true. And that's actually how I came up with the title, Never Goodbye.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh my goodness, God. I mean, there is a reason why I feel like a lot of people are just never content in life. Like, there's just so much, there's that something that a lot of people, unbelievers, believers, say that there's never that fulfillment. And I truly believe wholeheartedly that God created us to be like that, because we weren't meant to spend eternity on earth.
Right.
It's never goodbye, because home is our heaven. Like, heaven is where we're destined. It's paradise. And that's the only comfort of God's love that I felt helped me with my grief, was knowing that, no, this is not goodbye.
Yeah.
Like, this is never goodbye. I am going to see my dad. I'm going to see the ones that we tucked in at night at the nursing home again. We're going to have the biggest reunion ever.
That's so good.
And it's so, it's going to be epic.
It's funny you say that, and I love the title because we have a brain injured daughter who's taught us this. She literally, she doesn't like goodbyes.
Yeah.
And so it was annoying for me for a while, because like we'd be at the restaurant and the waiter would say goodbye and she'd like start to melt down, and we're like, and then I started to think about it, and I go, what? She's right. You know, for the believer, and C.S. Lewis said this. My daughter was right with C.S. Lewis, right at that, right at that, in that stratosphere of, there are no goodbyes.
Exactly.
There are no goodbyes, and so now we've just started to go with it. We stopped correcting her. We said, okay, fine. There's no goodbyes.
Just see you later.
Yeah. See you soon. See you later. Hasta
See ya. Hasta la vega.
Transforming tests to testimonies. This is a testimony. And you all went through a 27-year test. Talk about that for someone right now who's in their test. Someone who's right now struggling with, whether it's a debilitating disease, a family member, somebody struggling, something's happening. Speak to, after the journey you've been on, speak to that person who's in the test right now, who maybe doesn't think it's possible. Like, they're in that spot where they're going, nothing good can come from this. Nothing.
Yeah, I would first give them a hug from 6 feet, a virtual hug. And then I would just look them in the face with the understanding, I get it, heart, that there will come a time where God will use your pain for so much more purpose. And when we were going through our tests, a lot of things people were saying to me just kind of went through the left or right ear. A lot of verses were being said, but at the moment when you're going through so much pain, when you're going through so much loss, you don't really hear it. You don't really hear it. So what I would encourage and comfort the ones who are going through tests to know that you are so seen and you have so much purpose and love, and that there is a God who will be with you when you may not feel like it. And to just keep walking forward, to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and knowing that at the end of this life, when you walk through those heaven gates, God's going to look at you and say, well done, my good and faithful servant. And just keep hoping for that, putting all the questions to the side and just keeping your eyes focused. Keep praying, crying, being real with your pain. I believe being so real is the pathway to healing, because God wants to know your emotions. I mean, there were moments where I was in San Diego on the beach, just like crying out. Like, there was nothing joyful coming out, but it was just anger and sadness. And I would say to just keep praying to God, keep being real with Him.
He can handle our emotions.
He can handle it. The man can handle it.
And yet, and one of the things you said in here, which I thought was interesting, was trust God, not your emotions. So emotions are good and part of being human, but you make a distinction there between putting your trust in God and not your emotions. Talk a little bit about that.
Gosh, emotions are so fleeting. My dad actually included that in his last text message, to trust God, not your emotions. And that's actually like my thing that I've held so close to, because I mean, one day I could feel like on top of the world, and then the next day I feel like I just want to eat a bowl of ice cream and just watch Friends. Like, there's just, emotions are just so up and down. And my dad was a true testament of not trusting his emotions, because if he trusted his emotions, if he trusted the reality of his situation, he would be in a psych ward. He would be depressed in a psych ward. But my dad was so firm in his belief about trusting God, and it was contagious. It flowed through me. It really, it caught his illness of being so trustworthy towards God. And it's just putting your emotions to the side. And emotions are, I mean, half the time they're not even true, but just trusting on the one who is true, and that's Jesus Christ.
When he passed, you made a promise that you wanted to tell this story. You wanted to, which became this book. Talk about now kind of what your vision is for helping to bring hope, helping to bring the principles, which all these principles are good. I'll say, I mean, it's amazing what you've learned at a really young age.
Oh, thank you.
But talk about your vision for now going forward and how you want to bring light.
Yeah, so this book is my dad's promise. I promised my dad. I remember the doctors coming in saying that his time was coming in the next few minutes. And that photo actually is the last moment my dad and I held hands together. And I promised him that I would never let his faith go untold. And this book is a true testament of that. I promised him that what he went through, what we went through as a family, is never going to be forgotten, because it's not our story, it's God's story. And my hope and my vision for this book, to me, what I consider a New York's best time seller, is if someone messages me, or if I get that email saying, hey, I was going through a tough time and this inspired me, or this encouraged me, that to me is done. Like, I can wrap up my stuff,
Right.
go to Hawaii,
One of
call it
those,
quits.
you're
That's
good.
it.
Yeah.
But I truly feel my dad and God, just as I pray every night, I really feel like what they're trying to speak to me now is like, it's time to get to work. I mean, time is so limited on earth, and with everything going on in the world, I feel like God and my dad are just speaking to me like, let's get to work. Let's start pointing people to God. Let's bring hope. Let's not preach to them, but let's just love on them. And
Yeah.
that truly is my vision for this book, is just that opportunity to converse with them, to let them know that this is not goodbye. This is not the end.
Yeah.
This life that we're living in is just the beginning. We have so much to hope for. So it's more of a let's get things done.
I love it.
Yeah.
It fires me up.
Fire you
I
up.
really love it. I feel like so many people right now are on this sheet of music. What you just said about let's go, you know. I had a mentor one time who said he was a young pastor, and he was struggling as a young pastor, and he said one time God kind of spoke to him and said, "Stop telling them what to do and start telling them who I am."
Wow, that's good right there, Dean.
And I thought, you know, this is a moment, the whole world. I mean, here we are, we're just, what's next? You know, the mosquito hornet's coming. Where are we? What's happening? You know, God knows.
Who knows?
Who knows? But I think so many people are going, you know, tell me the truth. You know, tell me,
Yeah.
who is this? And it just seems like this is a moment. You know, some people call it a Kairos moment, where it's like a moment in time where it's, you know, and I feel like that's where we are, you know,
Yeah.
where people want to know, and people are struggling, and people are suicide and despair, you know, and this is just such a light. And my previous guest is the same thing, just the stories that you've been through, when you've been through it, and you can tell a true story that I went through it. It didn't end. It didn't even end the way you wanted it to. You know, it didn't even here.
Exactly.
But yet you have this light, and you have this joy that I just feel like lots of people need to hear about this.
Yeah.
I guess that's why we're doing this.
Good Life TV,
Yeah.
love it.
Good Life
Gotta
TV.
love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
No, but yeah, you nailed it. Everything was tweetable, what you just said. I would tweet everything right
Let's
now.
tweet. Good. Let's tweet. Hashtag. Yeah.
Hashtag it all.
I want to, before we close, I want you
Yeah.
to talk a little bit about your relationship with your dad. Just walk us through some of the kind of the tender moments. It seems like he was an amazing person
Yeah.
who's now healed.
Fully healed.
So that was granted, and he's more healed than we can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
But share a little bit of just about him.
Gosh, the man was my partner in crime. Let's see, he was fast. He was really fast in his wheels. I will
Was he?
say that. He was a speedy wheels. I have a chapter called Speedy Wheels because he was quite the fast one in that electric wheelchair. But man, there were so many funny stories with my dad. Gosh.
And humor was a big part of it,
Humor.
wasn't
He
it?
was so funny. Like, he was so funny. I don't know why. Like, okay, I guess I will tell this one story at the hospital or at the nursing home. He had moments where he was able to get off the vent and just kind of hang out in the lobby. About 3 to 5 hours, he had the freedom to do whatever he pleased. So there was a hotel right in front of the nursing home. So I was like, Dad, why don't we go get some fresh air? Why don't we just go walk out or wheel out? Let's roll out, Dad. Like, we would always have these
Let's
little
roll.
slings. Let's roll out. And then we would just roll out. And he would come, and we would love to sit in the lobby of this hotel in front of the nursing facility. And there was free breakfast and free dinner a lot of
really?
the times at the hotel. So I was good friends with the front desk receptionist. She knew who we were. She knew my father. She knew where he was at. So whenever we came in, she was so open to us having cereal or oatmeal or tea or coffee. But my dad was not having it. He was so embarrassed how I would be the type to grab free things. I'm like, Dad, come on. Look extra sick today. I need something. I'm hungry. But no, I guess the one funny moment was when he was so hungry and he wanted me to grab some fruit roll-ups. So I was like, okay, I got you, Dad. I got you. So as we were going, he saw a couple like tourists just walking around. I grabbed some fruit roll-ups and he like pretended he didn't know me. He pretended he didn't know me. I was like, Dad, how many do you want? He just like wheeled himself and just left. And here I am. I think they thought it was like a little loose up there, and we just bolted. And I knew exactly what was happening. So just the humor the guy really had was just humor. He had it all.
I look forward to meeting him.
Yeah, I know.
That's beautiful. Again, the book is Never Goodbye. Hannah Joya, you can connect with her on Facebook at Hannah Joya, Instagram Hannah Marie Joya. But I'd encourage you to read about this journey, because it's not just about the journey. It is really, I think, even as much so about these principles and what she's learned. There's a lot of great stuff. So congratulations.
Thanks, Steve, for having me.
Thank you for coming. It's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
We'll see you next time.